What happens when the most peaceful species in the galaxy decides to surrender without firing a single shot? The Galactic Council thought they knew. They believed humanity's surrender would mark the end of the last free world, the final nail in the coffin of rebellion against their iron-fisted rule. They were wrong. Sometimes, the most dangerous weapon isn't a plasma cannon or a neutron bomb. Sometimes, it's an idea. And humanity had just given every enslaved species in the galaxy the most dangerous idea of all, that their oppressors could be beaten not through superior firepower, but through something far more terrifying: hope. What the Council didn't realize was that humanity's surrender wasn't an ending. It was a declaration of war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. A war fought not with ships and soldiers, but with something that could spread faster than any fleet and hit harder than any weapon ever forged. The truth. This is the story of how humanity's greatest defeat became the galaxy's greatest victory. How a species that chose peace over war accidentally started the bloodiest revolution in galactic history. And how sometimes losing everything is exactly what it takes to win. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened at the stroke of midnight, Galactic Standard Time. Representatives from 47 different species filled the massive amphitheater aboard Station Prime, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of clicks, whistles, electronic pulses, and telepathic static that would have driven a human insane within minutes. High Counselor Vexthak of the Hegemony raised his primary appendage, and the chamber fell silent. His 4 eyes surveyed the assembled delegates with the cold calculation that had made his species the dominant force in the galaxy for over 3 millennia. The Hegemony had crushed rebellions on 1,000 worlds, enslaved entire species, and maintained order through fear and overwhelming technological superiority. Today marks a historic moment, Vexthak announced, his words translated instantly into dozens of languages and thought patterns. The last free world has fallen. Humanity has surrendered. A wave of satisfaction rippled through the chamber. The reptilian SSKTAR delegates hissed their approval, while the crystalline Zephyrite chimed in harmonic frequencies that expressed triumph. Only a few species remained silent, their representatives shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Counselor Zarahai of the Epsilon Collective leaned forward, her bioluminescent patches pulsing with nervous energy. Are we certain this isn't a trap? Humans are known for their unpredictability. Vexthak's mandibles clicked in what his species considered laughter. What trap could a single planet possibly spring against the combined might of the Galactic Council? Their fleet consisted of barely 300 ships. We have 30,000 in this sector alone. He gestured toward the massive holographic display that dominated the center of the chamber. Earth hung there like a blue marble, peaceful and defenseless. No orbital defense platforms. No weapon satellites. No massive fleet formations. Just a single, small planet that had somehow managed to remain free for nearly 2 centuries while the rest of the galaxy fell under Council control. The humans sent their surrender via subspace transmission at 0800 this morning, Vexthak continued. Unconditional surrender. No negotiations. No demands. They simply gave up. What Vexthak didn't mention, what the official reports carefully omitted, was how strange that surrender had been. Most species fought to the end, requiring the Council to demonstrate their overwhelming power through orbital bombardments or the complete destruction of their military forces. Others tried to negotiate, desperate to preserve some vestige of their culture or autonomy. Humans had done neither. Their message had been broadcast not just to the Council fleet approaching their system, but to every inhabited world within a 50-light-year radius. It was simple, direct, and had arrived with no fanfare whatsoever. To the Galactic Council and all who can hear this message, this is Director Sarah Chun of the United Earth Government. After careful consideration, humanity chooses to surrender unconditionally to the Galactic Council. We offer no resistance. We make no demands. We ask for no mercy. We simply lay down our arms and accept whatever fate you deem appropriate. We do this not out of cowardice, but because we believe there is a better way. We hope that through our example, others might find the courage to choose a different path. This transmission ends. That was it. No grand speeches. No defiant last stands. No desperate attempts to rally other free worlds to their cause. They had simply stopped fighting. Admiral Crexton of the Council Navy had been prepared for anything except total capitulation. His assault fleet had spent 3 months positioning themselves for a siege that could have lasted years. The humans had shown remarkable ingenuity in their previous conflicts with Council forces, developing weapons and tactics that had consistently surprised their enemies. Their ships were individually inferior, but they fought with a coordination and creativity that had frustrated Council commanders for decades. And then, they just quit. "What are your orders regarding the human population?" asked Counselor Thane, representing the Void Touched. His species existed partially in subspace, making their appearance a constantly shifting shadow that unsettled even other Council members. Vexthak had been dreading this question. The standard procedure for newly conquered worlds was simple: enslave the population, strip mine the resources, and relocate compliant species to serve as administrators. It had worked for thousands of worlds over the centuries. But something about the human surrender bothered him. Not just the manner of it, but the timing. Earth had been isolated for months by Council blockades. Their economy should have been in shambles. Their people should have been desperate, angry, demanding their leaders do something, anything, to save them. Instead, the intelligence reports painted a picture of a world at peace. No riots, no protests, no signs of civil unrest whatsoever. If anything, humans seemed resigned, as if they had expected this outcome and had already made their peace with it. "The standard protocols will apply," Vexthak announced finally. "The human population will be evaluated for usefulness. Those with valuable skills will be relocated to appropriate worlds for labor assignment. The rest." He let the implication hang in the air. But, even as he spoke, Vexthak felt a nagging uncertainty. In his 3 centuries of service to the Council, he had overseen the conquest of dozens of worlds. He had seen species fight with desperate courage until their last soldier fell. He had seen others attempt to flee to the furthest reaches of space. He had seen leaders beg for the lives of their people, offering anything and everything in exchange for mercy. He had never seen anything like humanity's response. The surrender had been broadcast on every human communication network simultaneously, not just to military command, but to every civilian on the planet. Children had watched their leaders announce surrender in classrooms. Workers had heard it during their lunch breaks. Families had gathered around their communication devices to hear their world's fate sealed with quiet dignity. And their response had been acceptance. Not the angry acceptance of a conquered people. Not the bitter resignation of those who had no choice. Something else entirely. Something that made Vexthak's exoskeleton itch with unease. Reports from Council intelligence assets on Earth painted an even stranger picture. Humans had begun what they called preparation for transition. They were organizing themselves not for resistance, but for captivity. Teachers were compiling educational materials about human culture, history, and technology. Scientists were documenting their research in detailed archives. Artists were preserving their works in formats that could survive for millennia. It was as if they were preparing for a very long journey. "Sir," came a voice from the communications station. "We're receiving another transmission from the human homeworld." Vexthak's primary eyes narrowed. "They surrendered 12 hours ago. What could they possibly have to add?" "It's not from their government, sir. It's from their civilian population. Actually, it's from millions of their civilian population." The main holographic display shifted, showing a cascade of transmission data flowing in from the Sol system. Not dozens of messages. Not hundreds. Millions. And they were increasing exponentially. "What are they saying?" Vexthak demanded. The communications officer, a nervous Quillian whose feathers were flickering between confusion and alarm, consulted his readings. "They're introducing themselves, sir." "What?" "Each transmission contains a personal message from an individual human or human family. They're telling us about their lives, their cultures, their hopes, and dreams. They're sharing their stories." Counselor Zarahai's bioluminescent patches began pulsing more rapidly. "That makes no sense. Why would a conquered population voluntarily provide intelligence about themselves?" Vexthak was beginning to understand, and the realization made his mandibles click involuntarily. "Display one of the transmissions." The hologram shifted to show a middle-aged human female standing in what appeared to be a modest dwelling. She was smiling, though tears were visible in her eyes. "Hello," she began. "My name is Maria Santos. I'm a teacher from Buenos Aires. I've spent the last 30 years helping children learn about the universe and their place in it. I want whoever is listening to know that humans aren't monsters. We're not warriors or conquerors. We're gardeners and storytellers and musicians and dreamers." She gestured to items around her home: photographs, books, musical instruments. "This is my daughter Anna. She wants to be a xenobiologist and study life on other worlds. This is my son Miguel. He writes poetry and dreams of the day when all species can share their cultures in peace." The woman's voice remained steady, but her tears flowed more freely. "I don't know what's going to happen to us, but I want you to know that we're not your enemies. We never were. We just wanted to be free to choose our own path among the stars." The transmission ended, but immediately another began. This one showed an elderly human male in what appeared to be a workshop filled with mechanical devices. "Name's Robert Chun. I'm an engineer. Spent my whole life building things instead of destroying them. I want to show you something." He held up a small device, no larger than his palm. "This is a water purification unit I designed for disaster relief. It can process contaminated water and make it safe for any carbon-based life form. The plans are in the public archives now. Take them. Use them. Maybe they can help someone, somewhere." Another transmission began before that one ended. A young human holding what appeared to be an offspring. "This is my daughter Luna," the human said. "She's 6 months old. She'll never know the Earth we're leaving behind, but I want her to know that her parents chose peace over war. That when we had the choice between fighting and surrendering, we chose to trust that there might be a better way forward." The transmissions kept coming. Millions of them. Each one a personal story, a glimpse into the life of a single human being. Artists sharing their work. Scientists explaining their discoveries. Historians preserving their culture's knowledge. Parents introducing their children. Children talking about their dreams for the future. And woven through every message was the same theme: we are not your enemies. We choose to trust you with our stories. We hope that by knowing us, you might choose mercy. Vexthak realized what he was witnessing: the systematic self-documentation of an entire species. Humanity wasn't just surrendering their world. They were surrendering themselves. Completely. Voluntarily. Without reservation. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, his feathers now a bright amber indicating extreme distress. "The transmissions aren't just coming from Earth." "What do you mean?" "We're detecting similar broadcasts from human colonies throughout this sector. Proxima Centauri. Wolf 359. Barnard Star. Every human settlement is broadcasting personal messages. They're all surrendering simultaneously." Vexthak felt something cold settle in his primary stomach. This wasn't the random collapse of a defeated species. This was coordinated, planned. The humans had been preparing for this moment, and their preparation had involved something far more complex than simply laying down their arms. "How many messages are we receiving total?" he asked. "Current count is approaching 8 million, sir. And the number is still climbing. 8 million personal testimonies. 8 million individual humans voluntarily exposing their lives, their hopes, their fears to their conquerors. It was unprecedented. It was incomprehensible. It was terrifying. Because Vexthak was beginning to realize that humanity hadn't surrendered to the Council at all. They had surrendered to the galaxy. To every species, every world, every individual being who might intercept their transmissions. They were broadcasting their stories not just to their conquerors, but to their potential allies. To species who had never heard a personal account of life under freedom. To worlds that had forgotten what it meant to choose their own destiny. Humanity wasn't just documenting themselves for posterity. They were seeding the galaxy with something far more dangerous than any weapon. The memory of what they had been willing to die to protect. And they were betting that someone, somewhere, would remember. The council chamber remained silent as the implications began to sink in. For 3 millennia, the Galactic Council had maintained order through a simple principle. Conquered species were broken, scattered, and absorbed into the larger collective. Their cultures were erased. Their identities were forgotten. Their resistance died with their last generation. But humanity had just made that impossible. They had preserved themselves not in hidden archives or secret bunkers, but in the very medium their conquerors used to communicate. Every subspace relay, every communication satellite, every data storage facility in council space was now contaminated with human stories. And those stories were spreading. The final transmission of the day came not from Earth, but from Director Sarah Chen herself. She appeared on the display exactly as she had in the surrender broadcast, calm, dignified, and utterly unafraid. To those who receive this message, she began, we want you to know that we go willingly into whatever future awaits us. We do not ask for rescue. We do not demand justice. We simply hope that our choice inspires others to find their own courage when their moment comes. She paused, and, for the first time, smiled. We are humanity. We choose hope over fear, love over hate, truth over comfortable lies. And we believe that those choices matter, even when they cost us everything. The transmission ended, and the council chamber fell into absolute silence. High Counselor Vexthax stared at the display for a long moment, understanding finally, dawning. Humanity hadn't surrendered to end their resistance. They had surrendered to begin it. And every species in the galaxy was about to receive a very dangerous education in exactly what they had lost when they had given up their freedom.